Hey guys, Fletch the Football Observer here, and today's video I'm bringing back the Premier League preview show in which I analyse and predict the upcoming round of Premier League fixtures. The Premier League returns this weekend and there are some intriguing and exciting games in store that should see arguably the best league in the world return with a bang. So without further ado, let's get into the previews. We're going to kick things off with the opening Premier League game for the new season. The Premier League returns on Friday night and it's last year's runners-up and Champions League winners Liverpool who host newcomers Norwich in the opening game of the 2019-2020 season. Liverpool's goal for this season will be to look to take that extra step towards Premier League glory after coming agonisingly close to doing so last year, going through the entire season with only one loss from 38 games, but missing out on the Premier League title by a single point. As for Norwich, one of the three Premier League new boys, they return to England's top flight division after a 3-year absence. Last season the Canaries won the Championship and as a result got promoted back into the Premier League, and their main goal for this season will be to survive and maintain their Premier League status. Will Liverpool get the new season underway in the best possible way for them, or will Norwich produce a bit of a shock and make a big statement with a victory over Jurgen Klopp's men in their first game back in the big time? My prediction for this game is that Liverpool will win. The Reds haven't had the best of pre-seasons, but this may be the first game throughout the summer that Mohamed Salah, Roberto Firmino and Sadio Mane are all back on the same pitch. And it's also worth pointing out that Mane has a pretty good record of scoring on the opening day of the season, as he's done so for the past 3 seasons in a Liverpool shirt. For Norwich, playing one of the bigger teams on the opening day is ideal. They may be able to catch Liverpool cold, especially considering that big players of Liverpool haven't been with the main squad throughout the summer, so whilst it may seem the Reds will win this one, Norwich could very well spring a surprise here if Liverpool aren't careful. Nevertheless, I'd expect the Reds to win. I'm going to say 3-1 Liverpool, Salah to get 2 goals, Timo Pukki to get 1 for Norwich, and Mane to go on and get the 3rd. Our next game sees the defending Premier League champions Manchester City as they travel to West Ham in these two sides' opening game of the 2019-2020 season. Last season, the Hammers finished 10th in a season of inconsistency that saw them constantly yo-yo in the table, but there was something to suggest that Manuel Pellegrini could build something with this team and possibly challenge for Europa League places for the upcoming season. As for City, as I previously mentioned, they're the defending Premier League champions and last season's domestic treble winners, and they'll be looking to do the same again this season. So the question here is, will West Ham cause a bit of an upset here, or will City get their back-to-back title defence off to the perfect start? This game should be a City victory here. The upside for West Ham is that with it being early in the season, there's a chance they could catch City cold, as I previously mentioned in the Liverpool versus Norwich preview. And of course that could possibly create a bit of a surprise by beating Pep Guardiola's side. However, I'm going to go for a safe bet and predict a City victory and for them to get their back-to-back title defence off to the perfect start. I'm also going to say that this game will end 3-1 in City's favour, with Sergio Aguero and Raheem Sterling both getting on the score sheet for the away side. The next fixture on this list features an interesting opening game for both Manchester United and Chelsea as the two clubs clash on the opening day of the Premier League season. This match sees Chelsea legend Frank Lampard take charge of his first competitive game as Blues manager, and it's an old foe of a club that his opponent is in Manchester United, who are of course managed by a club legend of their own in Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Last season, Chelsea ended the season on a high note, first finishing the season 3rd and therefore qualifying for Champions League football for this season, and secondly winning the Europa League, whilst Manchester United will be kicking themselves for not managing to get into the top 4 and finishing 6th instead, despite the opportunity of doing so presenting itself on multiple occasions. United's season, of course, didn't begin well under Jose Mourinho, but once Solskjaer took over, they bounced back and went on quite a roll before the wheels came off towards the end of the campaign. Both sides seem to have a common goal for this season, and that is to get into the top 4, but which side will get off to the perfect start here? In my opinion, this game has got draw written all over it. United have had a fairly good pre-season, all things considered. They've signed some players for big money as well as having a decent winning record in all of their games over the summer, whilst Chelsea have had a mixed pre-season. They've had no new fresh faces though to interject into their squad due to their transfer ban, although they did manage to secure the services of Mateo Kovacic on a permanent deal after a technicality meant they could do so despite the ban. However, now that things are getting more competitive, I honestly think that a draw occurring here is what I'm going to be seeing come the final whistle. And in saying that, I'm going to say that this game will end 2-2 with Christian Pulisic and Willian getting on the score sheet for the Blues, whilst Marcus Rashford and Antonio Martial will be scoring for the Red Devils. The second of 3 Premier League new boys are in action in our next game, where Sheffield United's first game back in the Premier League is against Bournemouth. Last season, the Cherries finished 14th after enduring a season where they began very well, and then the wheels sort of came off at various points in the season to cause Eddie Howe's side to fall down the table a little. As for Sheffield United, they came runners-up in the Championship last season, playing some nice football at times, but pre-season predictions have put the Blades as favourites to be relegated back to the Championship for the upcoming campaign. Will Bournemouth take all 3 points here, or will United stun Bournemouth and make the perfect return to the top flight division? This is a big season for both sides. Bournemouth will want to show signs of progression, while Sheffield United will want to both enjoy their time in England's top tier division, as well as attempt to defy the odds and survive within it as well. I am going to say that Bournemouth will just nick this one, but a draw wouldn't surprise me at all. I'm going to predict the Cherries to win 2-1, Callum Wilson to bag a brace for the home side. Our next game sees Sean Dyche's Burnley take on Ralph Hasenhüttl's Southampton on the opening round of fixtures in the 2019-2020 Premier League season. Last season, both sides were involved in a relegation scrap for a large part of the campaign, and both sides ended the season just outside of the drop zone, with Burnley in 15th and the Saints in 16th, with a single point separating the two clubs. Both sides will be looking to progress, but whilst they may have enough to keep their head above water in the league, they may not have enough compared to the other sides around them in the league to be challenging for places in Europe. Which side will kick off their season in the perfect way with a victory here? This game is truly one that could go either way. Southampton were resurrected under Ralph Hasenhüttl last season, and there was enough to suggest that not only could he bring more of a feel-good factor back to the club, but he could also really go on and progress and build something here. But as for Burnley, you know what you're going to get with them. You're going to get a lot of energy and physicality, and whilst last season was a bit of a drop-off from their previous season, that could be the reality check they needed to go on and kick on for this upcoming campaign. As for a prediction for this game, I think this game will end up a 1-1 draw, although I wouldn't be surprised if Southampton went on to nick this game near the end. Having said that though, I'm going to stick with my 1-1 draw prediction. Selhurst Park plays host to our next game as both Crystal Palace and Everton face off in their opening games of the 2019-2020 season. I should point out right now that this is being recorded on a Tuesday, so at the time of recording, not a lot has changed at Palace over the summer as the club look to go again for the next season, whilst Everton have been conducting their business a little bit under the radar this summer, but it really could help them out in the long run. It's the usual question of, can Everton finally break into the top 6 this season? I believe those places are as wide open as ever this season, and Everton could be a team to do it, but there are other teams in the mix as well. But as far as this game goes, which side will kick off the new season with all 3 points here? This is truly a big season for both sides, I feel. I think for Palace they'll be looking to stay clear of a relegation battle, whilst Everton will be looking to make progress and break into the top 6. As far as this game goes though, I think Everton will be getting the 3 points here. I think the Toffees will just have enough about them to see off Palace, and I think in the end, it will be 1-0 to the Toffees come the final whistle. Our next game sees Watford take on a new-look Brighton on the opening day of the new Premier League season. Brighton sacked Chris Hughton and replaced him with Graham Potter in the wake of the last campaign, and over the summer there's been a few changes behind the scenes too at the Amex Stadium in regards to employee roles within the club, such as their recruitment team and so on. As for Watford, a decent first season for Javi Gracia guided the Hornets to an 11th place finish in the process. European football was being talked about for a while for the club, but in the end it wasn't to be. Will the Hornets sting the Seagulls, or will this new era at Brighton begin with a victory? Brighton may not be a promoted club, but with a new manager brings with them a slight air of mystery surrounding this club. It's a new Brighton with a new way of playing and new ideas. Will it come back to haunt them in the long run? Only time will tell. As for the short term, it makes predicting this game a little more difficult. Watford on paper may be the favourites, but it may be a little more difficult to call than what most people are predicting. In saying that though, I actually do think Watford will win this game, and I'm predicting a 2-1 victory for the Hornets, but I wouldn't be surprised if Brighton managed to steal a point from this game. The last of the Premier League new boys, Aston Villa, are part of our focus for the next game as they take on Tottenham in Saturday's evening fixture. Spurs finished within the top 4 last season, but only just. But regardless, they managed to do it nonetheless, and were then beaten in the Champions League final by Liverpool. Whereas Villa finished 5th in the Championship last season, but managed to gain entry into the Premier League via promotion through the playoffs. Both sides have been active in the transfer window, Spurs signing some new players for the first time in over a year, whilst Villa have gone all out and spent over 100 million on new players, bringing in a total of, at the time of recording, 12 players overall. Will Spurs ruin Villa's return to the Premier League, or will Villa stun Spurs and make the perfect return to England's top flight division? It's a big season this for Tottenham. A trophy is surely needed this year, having come so close last season. As for Villa though, they will be hoping that their new signings hit the ground running and that they don't do what Fulham did last year, which was spending over 100 million themselves and still getting relegated. I still expect Tottenham to win here though and get off to the perfect start. I'm going to predict a 3-1 Spurs victory, and I'm going to say that Lucas Moura will be on the score sheet at least twice. One of the 3 fixtures to be played on the opening Sunday of the new season will see Newcastle's new era under Steve Bruce begin against Unai Emery's Arsenal. Both sides have had slightly frustrating summers in the transfer window, and of course have had to deal with other off-the-pitch issues as well. Most notably, the Magpies having to say goodbye to Rafa Benitez and hello to Steve Bruce as his replacement. Whilst Arsenal were struggling to make any new additions to their squad, and then along came the huge transfer of Nicolas Pepe. Now of course, I will reiterate that I am recording this on the Tuesday. The transfer deadline day is Thursday, so I have no idea if Arsenal or anyone else for that matter have added to their squad at all during that time. I'm only going off what I know as of Tuesday, although it is heavily rumoured that Arsenal will in fact be adding to their squad, but of course I'm just going off what I definitely know. Question here is, will the winger make his debut in this game and help Arsenal get off to a flying start, or will Newcastle stun the Gunners and begin the new season with a win? Arsenal, of course, will be looking to get back into the top 4 for this season, whilst Newcastle are being tipped as favourites to be relegated after swapping Rafa Benitez for Steve Bruce, so it's likely they'll be facing a relegation scrap for the upcoming season. As for this game though, you've got the unpredictability of Arsenal mixed in with the unpredictability of Newcastle. However, despite Arsenal's Achilles heel still appearing to be the defence, they seem to have enough firepower up front to get them through this game, and therefore I predict that the Gunners will win 3-1 with Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang to be amongst the goals here. And finally, another game that is taking place on the Sunday of the new season will be Leicester, who will be hosting Wolves at the King Power Stadium. Last season, Wolves returned to the Premier League with a bang, finishing the season in 7th in what was an excellent campaign for them. And as for Leicester, they finished 9th in the last campaign and also finished the season with a different manager in Brendan Rodgers. Both sides seem to have Europa League places in their sights at the very least for this season, but which side will get off to the perfect start here? It's in my opinion that both have Europa League places in their sights for this campaign, but with things being a little more wide open this season, consistency for either side could see them properly progress for the forthcoming campaign. As for this game though, I think Wolves will just about edge this one. I could see the Foxes steal a point, but I think that Wolves have enough to see the game out with a victory here. I'm going to predict a 2-1 Wolves win with Diego Jota getting on the score sheet. And that wraps up the latest episode of the Premier League preview show for Game 1 of the new 2019-2020 Premier League season. Of course though guys, as I always say, this is just one man's thoughts and one man's opinions on all of these games. So I want to know what you think. What do you think of the upcoming games? Do you have any predictions of your own? And if so, I'd love to read your thoughts, opinions and predictions down in the comments section below. Otherwise, hit the like button on the way out if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new or want to see more content like this. Both things would be greatly appreciated. And of course, as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch, the Football Observer. This has been another Premier League preview show, and I will see and speak with you all again soon in another video.